All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to be talking about the incredible work of Joseph Campbell, the legendary mythologist. And we're going to dig into his big idea, this revolutionary concept that all those ancient stories, these grand myths, they're not just some dusty old tales. No, he believed they're actually a living, breathing map for the personal quest that, believe it or not, every single one of us is on. So Campbell kicks things off with this kind of puzzling quote, right? The hero is the one who knows when to surrender. Wait, surrender? That doesn't sound very heroic, does it? It sounds like giving up. But that's not what he means at all. What he's getting at is that a hero's real strength, it comes from knowing how to yield to the rhythm of life itself. Life is this constant and, yeah, often brutal cycle where, as he says, this form eats that form. It's about learning to accept that flow, not constantly fighting against it. Okay, so first things first. To really get what Campbell's talking about, we have to totally rethink one simple word, myth. When we hear it, we usually think, oh, that's just a lie, a falsehood. Well, for Campbell, that could not be further from the truth.
Yeah, the key is all in how you look at it. See, myths aren't supposed to be literal history. They're metaphors. Think of them as the symbolic language a culture uses to explore the deepest human possibilities, our potential for growth, our place in the universe. You could almost say they're like the operating system, the software for the human spirit.
And look, these stories are anything but naive. They do not sugarcoat reality one bit. In fact, they stare right into the toughest parts of being alive. The violence, the fact that things have to die so other things can live, that whole cycle of birth and death. And they give us a framework, a way to make sense of it all, to find meaning in the chaos, and ultimately, to say yes to life, warts and all. So let me give you a really powerful example of this. It's the story of the Blackfoot Buffalo Covenant. Imagine this. The tribe is starving. A young woman, out of desperation, makes this incredible promise to the buffalo. If you feed my people, I'll marry one of you. And it works. The buffalo come, the people are saved, but then a buffalo comes to collect his bride. Her father, horrified, follows them. He gets some help from a magical magpie, but he ends up getting trampled to death. But then, in this amazing display of power, the daughter brings her father back to life. The buffalo are so blown away by this that they make a sacred deal. They say, okay, we will come back every year to feed your tribe, but in return, you have to perform the sacred buffalo dance to guarantee our return. You see, it's not just a story, it's a covenant. It's a sacred agreement that puts the tribe in harmony with the brutal but necessary cycle of the hunt. And if you want to know just how far back this goes, look at this. This image shows you this is the dancing sorcerer, an incredible figure found in a Paleolithic cave. This is our deep, deep past. We're talking tens of thousands of years that human beings have been using these kinds of mythic images to understand and really to mediate our relationship with the powerful and, let's be honest, often terrifying forces of nature. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, because Campbell started looking at all these myths from all over the world, from all these different cultures. And he noticed something. Beneath the surface, one single powerful pattern kept showing up over and over and over again. He gave it a name. He called it the Monomyth, but you probably know it by its more famous name, the hero's journey. And it's a simple, elegant structure, really. It's the story of someone leaving their everyday world, going on a journey into some realm of adventure and trials, and then, and this is key, finally returning home, but they're transformed, and they bring back some kind of gift for their people. A classic example? Let's talk about Parzival. So he starts out completely innocent, right? Raised in a forest by his mom, has no idea that the world of knights even exists. That's his ordinary world. Step one. Then, one day, bam, he sees 3 knights in shining armor. He's so clueless he literally thinks they're angels. That's it. That's his call to adventure. And he is immediately hooked. He has to leave, he has to find King Arthur's court, he has to become a knight himself. He has answered the call. See how it works? Now, if this whole pattern is starting to sound familiar, well, it should. Check out this quote. It's from George Lucas. That's right, the guy who made Star Wars. He said that when he finally read Campbell's work, it was like a light bulb went off. He realized that this hero's journey, it was the exact structure he had been using intuitively the whole time. Campbell basically handed him the blueprint for one of the biggest stories of our time. So this is really the key takeaway here. This stuff isn't just some old, dusty academic theory. The hero's journey is literally the operating system for so many of our favorite modern stories. Once you see it, you'll see it everywhere, from epic movies to the novels you can't put down. And the reason it works, the reason it resonates so deeply, is because on some fundamental level, it's our pattern.
And that brings us to the most personal and maybe the most powerful part of Campbell's work. How do we take this huge mythic pattern and actually apply it to our own lives? Well, for Campbell, the answer was both incredibly simple and profoundly deep.
You've probably heard it before. Follow your bliss. It's his most famous line. But what does it actually mean? Well, that feeling of vitality, of being so engaged in something that time just disappears, that sense that you are in exactly the right place, doing exactly the right thing, that is your bliss. And Campbell says that feeling, that's your personal call to adventure. It's the inner compass pointing you directly toward your own authentic life, your own personal hero's journey. And believe me, the stakes here are real. Campbell used to tell this story about meeting his former students years after they graduated. He said he saw this stark, striking difference. On the one hand, you had the women who had followed their star. They became artists, they pursued their real passions, and even years later, they just radiated this incredible vitality. But then there were the others, the ones who had just fallen into a prepackaged social role, spending their days doing chores that had absolutely nothing to do with what they truly wanted for their lives. And he said the light, it had just gone out of their eyes. They had ignored the call. Okay, so if following our bliss is the key to everything, why is it so hard? What stops us? What makes us hang up the phone when adventure calls? Well, according to Campbell, the biggest obstacle, 9 times out of 10, is our own ego. And he draws a really important line here between two things, the ego and the self. The ego, that's the you think you are. It's your resume, your job title, your social roles, all the things you've done in the past. It's what he calls the reality function. But the self, whoa. The self is something way, way bigger. It's this massive field of untapped potential, all the possibilities for your life that you've never even thought of. And the goal isn't to destroy the ego, not at all. The goal is to make the ego a servant to that much bigger self, to make it the vehicle that brings those deeper possibilities to life. All right, let's wrap this all up. We've talked about ancient myths, we've talked about blockbuster movies, but now it's time to turn the camera around. It's time to look at the hero in the mirror, you. I mean, if you take away just one thing, let it be this. The hero's journey is not just some old story from a book. It is a living, breathing map for a meaningful life. It's a practical guide for navigating the real challenges you face, for finding what you're meant to do, and for becoming the person you're meant to be. And here's the kicker. This journey is yours. It's yours alone. You can't wait around for society or your family or your boss to give you permission to start. Campbell says the creative hero has to find their own way. And by doing that, they actually bring back a gift, something new and vital for the very culture they had to step away from. So we end up right back where we started, with that tricky idea of surrender. The whole hero's journey is really an invitation to surrender the small, safe, predictable life your ego has all planned out so that you can embrace the much bigger, more amazing life that your true self is calling you toward. So I'll leave you with this question. Where is your bliss leading you? What path is trying to open up for you right now? And what are you willing to surrender to in order to follow it?